Graham Bolton and Jason Goldsmith here from FocusBand, and we're going to take you through the basics of our FocusBand system. We use the Japanese word mushin. Mushin means mind of no mindness, and when you experience mushin, we say you have got the mushin factor. Is that fair to say, Jason?
Absolutely, Graham. The mushin factor is the element that really helps athletes to clear their minds so that they can perform at their highest potential.
Okay. So, what are we trying to achieve? The goal is to execute in autonomous mode by calming the mind so the intellect is bypassed. When the intellect interrupts your swing thoughts, your swing is hijacked for no apparent reason. The FocusBand and the mushin factor will assist you achieve this goal. Okay, this seminar will cover all the following points. Jason and I will go through all these points, and Jason will be commenting on how he and Henry have been using the FocusBand on the tour. Okay, the mushin factor. The mushin factor is an intangible metric. That is, you cannot touch or see it. With the FocusBand, we can now validate and train the brain by using neurofeedback. Mind training is no longer a subjective experience. It can be objectively validated with the FocusBand. This is the game changer.
Absolutely. We've been using the FocusBand now for, it's going on about 4 years on the PGA Tour with elite level athletes. And I would say without a doubt we found that the FocusBand really is the only tool available that gives you insight as to what's going on in the player's mind while they're performing a particular action.
Okay, so as we can see there, we're using the FocusBand neurofeedback. When the mushin factor is engaged, the avatar is green, and when mushin factor is not engaged, it is red. We'll talk a little bit more about neurofeedback later on. Okay, the baseline. The baseline shows the enormous changes in the mental chatter while performing various functions. Being aware of this enables you to train to suppress the unwanted mental chatter that the intellect serves up. Jason, how do you and Henry use this on tour?
We've been using the baseline in a way that shows the athlete how their mind chatter is affected differently depending on the situation they're in or the level of distraction that's around them. So one way that we use it is we start with the athlete in a seated position without any distraction, and we discover what their baseline is. And let's say their resting baseline seated is about 45. And then what we'll do is we'll have the athlete stand up, and again we'll take a baseline reading, and typically the baseline will go down about 10 points to about 35. And then once we finish there, we get the athlete outside and get a putter or a club in their hand, and then we get another baseline reading while the athlete's performing an action outside in the environment with normal distractions around them, and typically the baseline will be around 20. And the goal here, Graham, is we want to show the athlete that there is a level of mind chatter that's going on, but more importantly, it gives them an ideal to train to. So they should be able to perform that action outside in full distraction at the same level that they perform it indoors in a seated position with no distraction.
Okay, so that really gives the athlete something to work towards, eh?
Absolutely.
Okay, here's this mental chatter we've been talking about. Mental chatter is identified and trained by using neurofeedback. Neurofeedback gives you the opportunity to train the brain to shift to a more desirable state at a rate of 128 times a second. This is the power of neurofeedback training that the FocusBand facilitates. You've had a lot to do with this, Jason.
Yes, absolutely. We've been working with several elite level athletes, and we're always trying to identify what's causing the blockage. So once we're able to identify what is the element that's causing the doubt or the belief that's causing them to have more mental energy or chatter going on in their mind, it's the same thing that's sabotaging their outcome. So the goal would be to eliminate the intellect in those particular situations and remove it from their process so that they're able to perform at a much higher level.
Okay. So now we're into the Preshot routine. Again, with use of the FocusBand, we are using the powerful neurofeedback training to eliminate any blockages in your Preshot routine. The Preshot routine is where you assemble the elements of the pre-shot, so no one element is dominating any other element, otherwise the red or the intellect appears. Could you just walk us through that, please, Jason?
Sure. So if a player has a pre-shot routine, most of them do, and most of the time it's physical, and if they haven't worked with us or worked with a coach that uses the FocusBand, they really don't understand what their mind's meant to be doing. So let's say they're setting up to the ball, and in this particular case they're looking at club alignment, but they're judging the alignment of the club during their routine. And just the judgment in that, for instance, is enough to take their awareness away from their intention and put too much emphasis on the club alignment, and now they've sabotaged their routine, and their outcome is likely not to be as good as if they would not have judged that particular element of their physical routine. So that's where we are able to identify a blockage. We're able to discuss with the athlete where their intellect belongs in that particular process, so that we can eliminate the intellect and have a much more free-flowing physical and mental homeostasis in their process, which leads to a better outcome.
Okay, thanks for that, Jason. Quiet eye. Quiet eye has been scientifically proven to correlate with skill levels. So the better you can acquire quiet eye, the better your skill level. The quiet eye factor has been extensively researched by Dr. Joan Vickers, and we recommend you purchase her book to gain further understanding of quiet eye if you want to go down that path. But be prepared to read quite a few pages packed with info. Jason, you guys use quiet eye a fair bit on the tour as well. Could you just run us through that, please?
Sure. Quiet eye is eye stabilization. It's been described as a softness in the eyes. Henry and I work extensively using quiet eye in creating routines or creating a blueprint for the individual, because we understand its importance in the process. If the athlete is able to achieve quiet eye in very specific points in their routine, their accuracy goes through the roof. So it's very important. We've spent a great amount of time working on where exactly quiet eye belongs in the process, and we understand how important it is for the accuracy element of anything that the golfer is attempting. And really, Graham, it doesn't matter if it's golf or baseball or basketball. The quiet eye is a critical piece for accuracy in any sport.
Okay, we're talking about intent here, and we would all know that when you're having a good round of golf, you're going from intention to execution without having to think about what you're doing, and the intellect just doesn't kick in. Please take us through intent, Jason.
Sure. So there's a very specific, cadence to everything we do in developing our process or the blueprint for the particular athlete. So we've worked very hard on how intent works. And in this particular case, what we found is once you've made a decision, so you've, considered the lie and the distance and maybe the shot shape and wind direction and adrenaline and all those things that you need to consider in making a decision. Once you've committed to that decision, then what we want you to do is have a clear intent. We want you to commit to the shot that you're wanting to hit, and then we want you to ask a question. And the question produces a visual image in your mind. So if you ask yourself an open-ended question like, what would a good shot look like? And you don't try to answer it with words, the brain can't help but to answer the question in a visual. Well, it turns out that visual creates a sensation in your body to perform that action. So we know that that's a critical element in creating a positive, clear intent so that the mind and body work well together. And again, it's a great contributor to producing a better outcome for whatever it is, putting, chipping, pitching, full shot, driving. It really doesn't matter. If the intent is clear and the athlete has produced a good visual and run their process and not had their process hijacked along the way, then the outcome typically is the outcome that they desire.
Meditation. The focus band actually measures the frequencies emitted from your brain, and these frequencies are relayed to the user using biofeedback. That is, visually on the avatar and audibly by the tones you hear. Meditation alters your brain frequencies to move towards a calmer state of mind, a prerequisite for optimal performance. Jason, how important is meditation with the elite athletes you work with?
Yeah, I think it's critical, Graham. I mean, not only is it something that I practice daily, but with all the elite level players that I work with, I've recommended that they all start a meditation practice. I feel like the more familiar they are with that calm mind state, the more accessible that state is whenever they need it most. So I truly believe that meditation is one key element, along with the FocusBand training, to allow the athlete to create this mindset that they're able to, run a process, know what it feels like to be in that correct mind state so that they can perform their action to the highest of their physical ability.
Okay, so there we have meditation. Bypassing the intellect. Just a footnote here. We only know a fraction about how the brain works. However, the little we know, we use to our advantage. Numerous scientific research shows that the prefrontal cortex is the discriminating intellect of the brain, and that's why we try and quieten the prefrontal cortex, and once that's quietened, you've got a chance of hitting the shot that you have intended to hit.
Yeah, I know that we've talked, Graham, in the past, about the numbers of, what the conscious mind's able to do, and I think the studies or the research shows that a very competent conscious mind can perform somewhere around 40 functions a second when it's being very efficient. But the non-conscious mind can do something between 11 and 30 million functions a second. So I think if you just look at the math and you say to yourself, if you're consciously trying to control your body while your body's trying to perform something as complicated as a golf swing, consciously we just don't have the ability to do it. So, to me, I think that speaks to exactly what you said about quieting the prefrontal cortex. If you have a clear intent and you've produced a good visual, the athletes that we work with trust their body's intelligence to perform the action. They're not thinking about how to perform it. And I think that's the best way to think about that.
Right. Okay, so we sort of got to the end here, Jason. So the various functions of our FocusBand app that we have just been through combine to give us the motion factor. It's similar to a combination lock, where you need all the numbers set correctly to open the lock. In this case, it opens up the opportunity to play to your potential by developing a proven mental training process. So in summarizing, when the motion factor is engaged, it validates your mental process so you know you are on track to perform at your optimal level. You got anything to add there, Jason?
I think you said that perfectly, Graham. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Most athletes, like we said earlier, have a physical routine, but it's not until you're able to validate what the mind's meant to be doing during that process that stops the mind from sabotaging that physical routine or the skill level or the potential skill level that those athletes have. So I think that what you said is right on the money. The motion factor is that missing key element that until now most people have not had a way to validate what their mind's meant to be doing. So that's the critical key combination to unlocking their potential, is that motion factor for sure.
Okay, thank you very much, Jason. That brings us to the end of this webinar, and if anyone's got any questions out there, please email it to us and we'll answer it either by email or in our next webinar. Thank you, Jason, and we'll speak to you a little later.
Absolutely, Graham. Have a great day.
Cheers, mate.